Now, Talk Real Estate with Sharon McNamara, sponsored by Boston Connect Real Estate Services.
Hi, I'm your host, Sharon McNamara, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Let me share a little bit about my background before we get started. I am the broker-owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, a boutique firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing agents who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate. And good morning to all my South Shore neighbors. This is Sharon McNamara. You are, of course, listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. I am here live in studio again with the one and only Melissa Wallace. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It was a busy week for me. I didn't see you much this week.
I know.
Yeah, I've been in and out, all appointments and all kinds of good stuff going on. Of course, we have Tim McKinney, who is in the WATD studio for us this morning. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
How are you? Did you have a good week? Nice week?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, it was nice to see the sunshine, see the snow melt.
Yes, that was the best part, snow melting.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Now get ready for...
Get out of here.
Now get ready for it to get cold again, apparently. So
I know, but it's okay. It's New England. This package deal when we live here, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
And I can't even believe daylight savings next weekend. What?
I know, yeah. But hey, middle of the week, we're going to be back up in the 50s. So this is just like a little blip on the radar or whatever. Don't worry about it.
We have to go through it. We live in New England. It's just part of what it is. You know, ask me how the weather is, and
wait a minute.
Wait a minute, exactly. Yep. And like when, it's going to be different every day. So, anyways, we have a great topic again this morning. I got to tell you, as much as this is a lot of pressure on you, Melissa, to come up with the topic. So the past 2 weeks, you've come up with the topic for me, and I don't know. Like I knew last night, I didn't finish up my showings and things that I was working with some clients last night, and I didn't get home until about 6 o'clock. And I sent you a text like, "Hey, did you come up with the topic? We didn't have a chance to talk about it, whatever." And I sort of like it, the mystery of it.
Not knowing until you get here?
Yeah, I sort of like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like catch me on my feet, like keeps me on my feet, you know, keeps me whatever, doing the thing. So you want to let everybody know what it's all about?
Yeah. So we sort of, again, get our real estate topics for our show from our everyday life living in real estate. So just based off of some conversations that we've had and seen so far during this year, I thought it might be a good idea to sort of get into the nitty gritty. And sometimes it's not all perfect in real estate. So today we're going to be talking about real estate pitfalls. So what you need to avoid. Whether you're purchasing real estate, selling real estate, you are a real estate agent, we can talk about. So just sort of compiled a list of scenarios that, happen in everyday real estate that can be avoided. And let's talk about how we can avoid them.
Sorry. I think that this is a good one too. And, I might have some of my friends, watching us on Instagram. If you're on there, Mia. Hello, Mia. Excuse me. But I was listening to Clubhouse a little bit this morning, and that's an app that I go on frequently. I sort of took a hiatus, when Mary was on maternity leave, just because I was just so busy. But I like to just sort of tune in and listen, because I love listening to what other agents throughout the country are talking about and discussing, because generally, especially in our sand states, what they see, we get to see sort of several months later. So I just think it's really important to stay on top of, the trends in other other states as well. But they were having when I tuned in this morning, they were having a brief conversation on new construction. And, as I was doing that, I was thinking I might do like a webinar or something like that for, new construction, because I think that that's where the inventory is right now. And I think that there are things that buyers should be considering. So that's one of the things I just added to our agenda. I don't even know if it's on here. I just wanted to remind myself, just like common mistakes, pitfalls in new construction as well. And it was good because a couple of things came up, and I think, I was like that. So I come from things for perspective, you know that, right? So I was thinking, as the listing agent, if you came to me as a buyer's agent and asked me those questions or requested those contingencies, what would my answer be? So that's,
it's definitely, and we've said it before, it's a different beast. You can certainly talk about some new construction. I want to just sort of start off with home buyers and some common mistakes that home buyers make. And I think that the number one, and I think you saw it a lot, maybe 10, 15 years ago, is overextending financially. And I mean that by keeping up with the Joneses. And when you are buying a house, you should be buying it for yourself. Unless you're buying it for a kid, then good for you. But you should be caring about you and those who will be living in that house, and not trying to keep up with somebody else, because that's when you overextend yourself, when you're trying to impress people that don't matter.
Yeah. Well, that's that common. I don't remember who said it, but I know that there is a famous quote, and it's one of the finance guys. It might be Buffett, that said, a lot of times people are spending money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people they don't even know. And I think that that's what happens. And we sort of actually, that's a very good point. You're so good at that. Because it brought us back to even last week, I think it was that I said it. One of the common things that buyers are doing right now is, the rates are up. But I did see that they were in the 6s. So, they tend to be better than what they were. Who knows where they're going to go. So people, their expectations. Yeah, we did talk about this last week, because you were really good about seeing what your home could be versus what it is, right? So I think what ends up happening, and this is a good example, people overpaying for a house. They're doing it even now, but I definitely saw it in like 2004 when people were it was the same thing. It was reckless, and there was little inventory. And when there's little inventory and lots of buyers, you end up getting multiple offers. And the only way that someone feels they can win is by overpaying. And that's the only way I can say it. And it isn't overpaying if that's what you want to pay for that house. That's called emotional value, which we've discussed in depth here. But it's if you're overpaying paying over the list price, let me put it that way. If you're paying over the list price and you can't afford it, then don't do it.
Yeah. Somebody recently, I was having dinner with them, and they rent, and they were concerned. They said, it's a condo, and another condo in that development is for sale. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous that my landlord will see what they're getting and want to sell. And I said, well, when did your landlord buy? And she said 2022. And I said, he's not selling.
Jeez.
I go, he's not selling because he probably has a great interest rate, and you're definitely paying him more than what he's paying in the mortgage. So I think you're going to be fine. But, overextending financially, I think also bringing in the part of, budgeting. You have to budget, and you get a pre-approval for a reason. And that is from somebody who is in the financial world that is saying, this is what you can afford. And I think it's always best to go below that. Never best to go above it.
Yeah, well, and that's you were really good about that. And I think that, you were in a different situation as well. As a young professional, single woman purchasing a home on her own, the only fallback you have is yourself, right? So I think that you went into that extremely smart. And I think that, having money for the unknowns is really important. So I think that,
Yeah, I mean, in overextending, meaning, even I'll take my journey because I've been pretty open about it, is I had X amount of dollars saved, and that's as a single person. I was given a pre-approval, and essentially Jasmine from Maritime Mortgage said, this is what, financially you can afford. But if you're not comfortable with that payment, look below it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't comfortable. I could afford it, but I wasn't comfortable going that high. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I did because of how long it took and the interest rate rose that much. But I always sort of stayed really under, like, this was my threshold. Like, this, I don't want to go above this, even though on paper and everybody else might think that that's what I could afford. I didn't want to. I still needed a nest afterwards. And I've said this many times, on the show, is at the end of the day, at the end of the closing day, everybody else walks away and you're left with the house. And if you can't afford it, then why you had no business buying it.
Yeah. And I've had people in the past say, if I, stop drinking my Starbucks coffee every morning, if I stop doing this, I'll be able to, unless you're getting rid of your car payment, that's $800. I don't see that giving up a coffee every single day really should be the deciding factor of if you should buy a house or not. Just lower. And again, we said last week, we decided that it wasn't going to be lowering your expectations, but lowering not even your standards, but lowering, we came up with a really good word last week, but just lowering what that looks like for you. Right. And I was talking to somebody again this week and the same thing came up. I did a CMA actually for one of our listeners, and he's considering selling his current home. And, basically because what we're getting this call a lot, I'm not sure that this layout of the current house I'm in, although I love it, is actually going to be what brings me into aging in place. And when I met with him, we're talking about, I was like, your house is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. What are your plans? Where do you want to go from here? And he said to me, well, I don't want to buy a house that is absolutely perfect, because I'd rather put my own equity, sweat equity, and my own equity into it. So if I do go to sell that one day, then at least I have some equity. So when you buy a house that's already done and renovated, it's great. You don't have to do anything, but you're also paying somebody else's equity.
Yeah. Which is interesting because you do a lot of new construction. So it's sort of one hand or the other. New construction, you don't have to do anything, and something that, needs a little bit of work, you're putting in that sweat equity. So, but I also think that it all depends on the market that you're in, because new construction does go up in value too, over time. So I think that it really just depends on, I'll be an attorney in this situation. It depends.
Well, and when you're talking about new construction as well, I think one of the things to consider too is when you get into a development sooner in the process, you have that new construction sort of pricing because you are dealing with the trucks going by and, all of that type of stuff. But I know in my development, one of the developments that I'm, listening to, not listening to, I just looked at my...
you just stand there and you just listen to what they have to say.
I looked at my phone because people are telling us it's low on Instagram and I don't know what to do about that. But when you buy newer, you're dealing with all of those things, but you're getting equity. So one of the units that I sold, the base price started at $630. The base price for that same house right now is $719. So they've dealt with it for a year, but look how much equity they have, right? So those are the things that people should be looking at and considering.
Yeah. We've talked about this part a lot, and we're actually having Amy Masferrer from Mahoney Law Group come in and we do a roundtable discussion every Tuesday here at Boston Connect Real Estate. And she's going to come in and do that with someone from Tiger Home Inspections and talking about home inspections and what that's going to look like after, I think, July 15th in our real estate world. But to get back to this topic, and maybe she can come on the show. I brought it up because I'm hoping that maybe she can join us on the show. She's joined us before talking about contingencies and everything with an offer and purchase and sales, and she's wonderful. But, skipping a home inspection is definitely a common mistake that people have. I mean, we never, ever, ever, ever suggest, and your agent shouldn't suggest, that ultimately has to come from the buyer. It has to be a decision that the buyer makes. And there are ways that you could, respectfully, I guess, not do a home inspection, meaning, maybe you have people in your life that are in the trades and they can come to your showing and they can come to an open house with you and just really give a glance over. I mean, you're not doing a home inspection during an open house.
Yeah. No, please don't.
That would be a no-no. But, you just, there's ways sort of around it, but I think, foregoing the home inspection is definitely a common mistake that people do.
That is definitely a common mistake. And I'm curious because I haven't had a chance to talk to you actually this week. So I know that last weekend I had talked about the new listing that Mary and I had, the condo over in Pembroke, and she ended up getting 5 or 6 offers on that. Are we seeing that on single families as well? Like, how are the other agents in the office discussing things right now?
Well, Michelle Fame will talk about her new listing down in Bourne later on in the show, but she has a new listing in Bourne, and she had come into my office the other day and said, hey, if I get multiple offers, would you sit with me, either Monday or Tuesday? Like if I start to get an idea of getting multiple offers, like I'll set a deadline. Right now she doesn't have one, but if she starts to get some in, she'll do a deadline of Monday, and maybe Tuesday her and I will sit down, and it's just great to have a second pair of eyes on things. I used to love when we would do that, the three of us. Yeah. It's just going through everything and double checking everything, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and making sure everybody has a full package, because that happens a lot. That, people are missing things. It's just weird. I don't know. We go back to, we had the show, 4 weeks ago, when we talked about the importance of having a full-time real estate agent, right? And it's someone who's going to take the time to read the actual showing and, the offer instructions that's coming from the seller or the seller's agent. Like, I want this full package. What is so difficult about that? Honest to God. Yeah, I don't know. I have zero tolerance for laziness. Zero. But yeah, multiple. It's been, I think, sort of a slow start for a lot of agents, across the board. I think it was sort of unknown if this winter was going to be bad or good. And I feel like it's been sort of medium, medium rare, I guess, if it was a steak. Not bad. We've had some snow, but, it's always tough right around, after an election and not really knowing what's going on and stuff. So we sort of prepared for this, having a little bit of a slower morning is what I was going to say, but slower start to the year. But, the listings that we have had, it's interesting because I don't think they got to the point of multiple offer, because I know, Kristen Howlett had a new listing that came on the market, and she ended up canceling her open house because she got a really great offer. That just recently sold this week. I know Jess Page, she had a new listing come on, and I think she canceled one of her open houses because she had a really great offer come through. So I think that we're back to maybe not getting to that point. But I'm hoping for all the buyers' sakes that they're able to put in an offer. And it is a little bit competitive, because when the first thing happens, it's sort of, you're not in the game. You don't get to get in the game. You're still on the bench. Yeah. And I think that is the other thing too, is like when we're thinking about the common pitfalls of, from a buyer perspective, when it comes to these offers, is just assuming that there are other offers on the table. Please make sure that your buyer's agent asks, are there any other offers on the table? And I know that might sound like one of those oxymoron things, like saying jumbo shrimp. As a seller, you probably don't, because look at what we've seen. But we've seen it. We've seen it firsthand, where I get offers. I remember one time, this was a couple of years ago, maybe, it got an offer. It was $75,000 over asking. Yeah. And we didn't even have another offer on the table at that time. Yeah. I'm going to avoid saying this person's name, so it doesn't, in case that the other agent listens to the show, but there was a scenario where somebody was representing somebody in their family, another agent, they do not work here. We had the listing, one of our agents had the listing, and she had no other offers. And somebody came in representing a family member and put in an offer $80,000 over asking. And our agent was like, what? Like, in the back of their head, they were like, okay, but they didn't ask me if I had any other, like, they didn't have to go that high.
How can that be? I mean, I just don't even understand. This is the thing.
And then it appraised. So she was like, okay, I guess we're moving forward.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I know, like, sometimes it's so difficult to come on here and say, you know, we think that all the Boston Connect agents are the best of the best. Hey, but I also know that there are several agents on the South Shore, multiple of agents that are very, very, very good agents. And they take this, I say, ask the question, is this your first and foremost career, right?
Yeah.
Maybe people can do it if they have like a part-time job, maybe they're waitressing or something to supplement, right? I think that that's completely different than, being, having a full-time job 9 to 5, when you're behind an office and the only time you can be interrupted is during your like lunch break. Like that is not, I don't think that that's fair to your buyer, right? Just because you want to, and they, these agents think, oh, that will just get, some quick cash their way. Well, that isn't the way to do it. But if you ask somebody, is this your priority career?
Yeah. Just moving on to the next pitfall, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I know I have a list here, but not considering resale value. I think that is definitely an important factor when you're walking through a home, unless your intention of purchasing a property is to have that one property for the rest of your life. That's your forever home. I think going into it, I think it's a smart idea to always think about the resale value and how is this going to look, when I decide to sell in 5 years or even 10 years. What are some things that I can do to add value to it? I think that those are important questions to ask as you're walking through homes if you're purchasing one. And don't intend to live there for all of eternity.
Yeah.
Until
everybody
the end
who
of time.
says that this is their lifetime home, usually it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you sell, right? or maybe you don't get the opportunity, unfortunately, and you just
like, I don't know,
somebody else has to sell it for you.
I think about now, like we bought our house in 1992. We're in the same house. And I think maybe you get to a certain point where it doesn't make sense anymore to sell. You know what I mean? But I don't know that there are actually many people that are in that same scenario where they bought that. This is our first house. 32 years we've been in the same one. So and when people say forever, I did not think that was going to be our forever home. But it is. We made it.
Yeah, but you made it your forever home. Like you did work to it and added to it to add value if one day you were to sell, but also if you were to stay. So like that's the difference. So I think, it even with, I'll take like a ranch, for example. So you have the one floor. Okay, could you do an addition somewhere? Where is the septic system? Can you do an addition off of this side or that side? Can you do a garage? Adding some sort of a value or reason to stay, because if there isn't an opportunity, chances are you're going to have to sell at some point if you expand or if, for any reason, really.
Yeah. One of the things I was just thinking of as you said that is, the location. That's the reason why we never left. I mean, ultimately when we first purchased the house, and everybody heard my story, several months ago when I discussed, Mark and I giving a builder $13,000 and he left. We had nothing other than us paying for our own wedding in 4 months, and it was pretty devastating. But I feel everything happens for a reason. So if you ask me now, yeah, I would have paid $13,000 more for the house that I have right now. You know what I mean? Especially looking back. But my location, I love. Do I necessarily love, my street, that it's like, sometimes cars are whipping up there and things like that.
Kind of narrow and dark.
Yeah. Do I love that part? No, not necessarily. But what I do love is once I pull in my driveway, I feel like I am in my own little world anyways. Not that I don't like neighbors, but I don't like, in fact,
private, but like you're still like, you do have sort of a lot of land, I would say that, but like you still feel like it's a private, you're like a private resident, you know, on a street that has a lot of homes, but it seems very like, and I know how close you are with your neighbors too. And all of you guys had kids growing up together. And I think that, that was a factor for you to not move is even though there are things that you don't love about your street, there are things that you do, and you love your home, and you made your home yours on that street. Not everybody gets that opportunity. So, you know, not everybody has the land to expand. Not everybody has the ability to do that. So they would need to sell if they had that 2-bedroom, you know, ranch, and they wanted to expand their family, or they needed to, you know, bring in a family member or anything like that, you know, that would be a reason to sell.
Yeah. And if you do have that 2-bedroom ranch, 2 or 3-bedroom ranch, please call. We need to get the ketchup out of the bottle, so to speak. We'd love to get your house on the market, because there's those people that want that. The people who want that now are the people that are in the 4-bedroom colonial, which that person wants. So somebody has to move sooner than later.
So let's switch them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle she's watching us on Facebook. So Michelle Fay, who's a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, she's the one who has the newborn listing, and we'll talk about it later on in the show. But she said, "Hi, I just put an offer deadline in for Monday at 3." So looks like she's getting some traction on that one.
Yeah, actually, one of our listeners who had called me probably about a month or two ago, and I had been talking to him, and he does have a property down Cape, and you know, he had been talking to me about, you know, possibly selling that after this last summer there, but he's very well versed in real estate and has sold many properties, bought and sold many properties, and he actually texted me, because we talked about it last week. He sent me a text after the show. I told him I would, you know, get in touch with him, so he did go down to Michelle's open house on Thursday. Just wasn't the one for him, but yeah, so you see, he heard it here first. Yeah. And then he had one up on everybody else. He knew it was coming. So, yeah. Want to give our phone number? I hurt my neck again this morning.
781-837-4900. Again, it's 781-837-4900. Tim is in the studio, so you can give him a call, or you can text that number. We're also live on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. So be sure to follow us. We're waving. Hello. And leave a comment. Oh, Dee is watching, of course. Good morning. Good morning, Dee. And we have quite a few people watching us on social media right now. So hello. What are we at? Oh, we're halfway there. So, anything else we want to talk about with the buyers before we get to maybe real estate investment parts, or even the legal aspect? I have a whole section on the legal aspect.
Yeah.
Too.
So with buyers too is maybe I'll mix this a little bit with some of the things I wanted to say about the new construction, and sort of just adding that, you know, throwing that into your agenda last minute on that is, you know, I think that. Well, here's a big thing with buyers, I would say. How do you say it? You know, no one wants to pay full price, right? Well, you have to really look at the comps. So when I'm putting an offer in for somebody, and like I'm going to be meeting someone this afternoon. Actually, I had showed them a property yesterday, and I'm going to be meeting them today. And they're like, "Well, what do you think of the price? What do you think of the price?" That's such a hard question to ask an agent, like without me looking at comps, because you know what I mean, like. It could be good. It could be bad.
All you can say is, you know, I hope that the listing agent is a professional and did their due diligence with the market value. Obviously, we will check that before we put in an offer, but anything over a market value is your emotional value, and I can't gauge that. That's something that you have to come up with.
And that's the thing, too, is so some of the pitfalls of buyers is, one, you know, don't assume anything in this. This is why I always go back to hire a professional real estate agent who this is their priority career, and that they're making you their priority. Okay. And that's because when somebody asks me that question, I can maybe, you know, if I know off the top of my head, but I always like to check. It doesn't matter. The pricing changes every day. Things are sold every day. I mean, if the house next door was on the if people will say, well, the house next door is on the market for, $500,000, it doesn't mean that that's what it sold for. So I just don't know. And I just don't like to give anybody an answer. So I do a reverse CMA when any of my buyers are buying a house, do a reverse CMA. Here are the comps. This is where the value range is, and then from there, that range is what's going to indicate to you as the buyer or dictate to you where you should be putting in your offer.
Yeah.
And it's based on, one, do we know what the seller motivation is? Have they already moved to another state and they just want to get this behind them? Is it a divorce situation? Well, guess what? Divorce situations go one way or the other, right? It's either let's get out of this house and get this behind us, or I'm not getting out of this house. You cheated on me.
Yeah. And we've seen that too.
Yeah, we've seen that too. Those ones are fun. Can I get a showing? No.
We've been in separate parts of the same house, talking to separate
Oh my goodness.
a wife and a husband, and trying to figure it all out, getting two different stories. But at the end of the day, the house sold. So that's what mattered to both of them.
Absolutely.
I also, before we move on to maybe sellers or investors, is bad financing.
I was gonna actually say. So when you are choosing the city that I was recently talking to, and they were considering putting their house on the market, and they told me what their current mortgage was. Well, I almost fell over. Yeah. And I was like, that just seems like, knowing in my head where the value of that house probably was going to come in, because I've already done some research on it. I was thinking, how could it be possible that that's what their mortgage is, right?
Yeah.
And even if they did 100%, it didn't make sense to me. So I was like, really? I was like, who did you use for a loan officer? So they said, the company that brings you to the moon, right?
Yeah.
And that is not a mortgage company. That is a marketing company that is selling leads to loan officers.
Yeah.
Period. Amen. Right. And I was like, did your buyer's agent recommend somebody more local? It's always good to work with a local lender, right? Because they know the market. I have confidence in local lenders more so than the company that's going to bring you to the moon.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what I'm talking about if you see commercials. And no, the response was, no, the loan officer referred me to the agent.
Yeah.
I did everything in my power to not let my chin hit the floor, right?
Yeah.
So you have a company that is, sort of fake and in the air, that's now getting probably double referrals, right? So a referral to a loan officer, a referral to a buyer's agent. And so that buyer's agent is never going to question. That's where they're getting fed from. Find out where the best option for anybody buying a house or getting into the process is go to somebody that you know and trust.
Yeah.
Know and trust. And you're going to just be in good hands. So I said, that's good. I was just shocked. Anyways, the reason why their mortgage is so much is because they were told that they didn't qualify for a 30-year fixed mortgage, only a 15-year mortgage.
Which is weird.
Which is not true.
Yeah. That's just not.
It's not true.
Yeah.
You're more of a risk at 15 years for a bank than you are at 30 years. Yeah. Right? Because the payments are now higher.
Payments are higher.
So now you have a bigger chance of not making those payments. So if there are any loan officers out there or attorneys and you want to chime in on this, please do. 781-837-4900. We'd love to hear from you on that. So there had to be a reason why they did that. So I was talking about this with all my friends on Clubhouse a couple nights ago, and because we were talking about all these different things, and my friend Cindy from Lake Tahoe. And where is she from?
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, yeah. Why did I think I'm thinking of her
I've
skiing.
only met her once on FaceTime, but I know that's where she's from.
No, Salt Lake City. I was thinking she's always skiing. That's probably why I thought of Lake Tahoe. And she had mentioned she's so well read. I love tapping into her brain. And she had said, well, that company that brings you to the moon is currently in several lawsuits because of doing things like that. Yeah. And they're getting referrals to refer to agents.
Yeah, it's interesting because I recently received a call here at the office looking for one of our agents and said, I've been trying to get in touch with this person for a rental. I haven't heard back. And they said, I was on Zillow and I really want to see their list, their rental. And I've been messaging with them and, texting, and then now they've fallen off the face of the earth. And so I said, can I just verify their number with you just to make sure? I said, because on Zillow, you're not always talking to the listing agent. So I just want to make sure that you are talking to the
generally
listing agent.
Never.
You're generally not, and unless that agent is investing some big money every month, which is, I think a waste of money. But
wouldn't you think? Well, maybe we should do a show just on that topic, like. Because as you said it, I'm thinking none of our agents are paying for Zillow leads. It's like some of our agents might be on lists, like if something comes through, like, hey, we're going to give you this lead, but you don't pay us until it closes, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think paying for leads is sort of a thing of the past that seasoned, professional, successful real estate agents don't have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're on Zillow and you're finding your agent that way.
Well, I always talk to people, when that sort of topic gets brought up, I always say, well, our agents work by referral. So they're all relationship based. Their business is relationship based. So, they have repeat business for a reason. And they're not out there buying their business. Their business comes organically. And that's what makes us different.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things I think you were going to get investments, but or onto sellers, but some of the new construction things, I'll just say real fast.
Yep.
So with new construction, I think some of the common mistakes or pitfalls is assuming that the base price includes everything. So certainly don't do that. You should, and I talked about this morning as well on Clubhouse, was ask for the general specifications and then what upgrades are already included. So if the house has already been done, ask those questions. So it was interesting for me. I met with another builder this past week a couple times to discuss one of his properties, because I have somebody who wants to be in a 55 plus sort of development. So I was talking to him and I was like, oh, is this an upgrade or is this included? Like, I had to find out where he lies, because certain things that he would consider an upgrade are not an upgrade for me, but certain things that we would consider an upgrade weren't upgrades for him. So don't assume everything is in the base price, especially when you're looking at a model. The model has everything there on purpose. It is not, I promise you, to make people want that more so you can say, oh, well, that's an upgrade. That's an upgrade. And two, here's a good question. Does your agent, when you're getting new construction, does your agent get paid on upgrades, or do they get compensated on the base price? So for us, we get compensated on the base price. I don't care if you buy or you don't buy something. You know what I mean? So not that I don't care, but you know what I mean?
Upgrade.
An upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. We care if you purchase.
We care if you purchase.
The house itself.
Yeah, we want you to have exactly what you want, but your choice isn't going to impact me. And I think that's important for people to know, right?
I think a good question also is if you're looking to purchase a model home, is asking what was the base price of this particular model when it was being built, and then see what the difference is in the list price, and you'll understand what the upgrades are and the value of the upgrades that are in that house. And we've always said that you get the best bang for your buck when it comes to purchasing a model home, because you're generally not paying dollar for dollar for that, because you're not the one choosing everything in that home. So the builder is choosing the things that go in there. So there is a little bit of a discount that goes into that factoring of the list price.
Yeah. And not only that you'll be the first person to live in that house, but you won't be the first person to be using that house. So it's not a resale, it is new construction, but you have to keep in mind, as we're using it as a model. So
people have been walking through it.
Yeah, so people have been in there and through it. So, and I definitely think that. But it's interesting what you said is, what was the base price of this house when it was built?
Yeah.
Because, as that is such a really, really good question, Melissa, because no one's really ever asked me that. Because would that be where the base really is now? Because as our base price is increasing, we're increasing.
Probably not.
Yeah, we're increasing the base price with it. But that's a good angle. If I was a buyer's agent, I would be using that on me every day.
There you go. I just gave somebody an idea.
I would be using that one on me every day. Cause I would
want the base price to be lower, because if the list price was higher, then your expectation is that difference being an upgrade. So, the higher the base price, and if it's close to that list price, then you're like, okay, well then what, like, I'd rather just buy the base price that it is now and put my own thing. So it's a good question.
Yeah. You know where that just came from in your head? Look at me like staring you right in the eye because you're such a detective.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
I would know if I was purchasing new construction, that would be a question that I would ask.
Yeah. So Melissa's office, you're now in the front again. And I know you love that little corner office there where you can see out the window and stuff there. If you sneeze as you're walking by, Melissa will say, do you want a tissue? She knows everything that's going on. Yeah. So it's really important to understand the builder's contracts. What does it mean when you're doing a reservation versus an offer? That's really different. Skipping a home inspection. I will say most people are not doing a home inspection. Every builder is different. I know with our builder that we work with at Stonebridge Homes, they do this really thorough walkthrough at the end. It's the blue tape walkthrough, and you're walking through, putting things where you see them.
I have a question. When it comes to somebody who is purchasing new construction, ground up building, and they do want a home inspection, at what point are they doing the home inspection? What's the contingency about walking away?
Yeah, you won't be able to.
Yeah. So it's essentially just the knowledge of knowing how to use the mechanicals.
Well, you know what it is maybe they do come up with something like, let's just say
the fan isn't venting
properly
in the whatever. I don't know, something.
I mean, I really truly cannot think of something that might come up that in a home inspection. Maybe the door is like maybe stuck or something. Not stuck. I don't know what would come up. Maybe the door isn't aligned properly. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something that would give you the opportunity to have the builder repair it.
Which is
but
like
you would
your
not be
walkthrough.
able to get
Which is like your walkthrough.
Yeah.
When you're walking through, like
when you're doing your walkthrough with us. Yeah. So, but I would never discourage anybody from doing anything they want, especially when it comes to home inspection. But you would not be able to get out of the contract. The house is now built to your specifications. So that's why that wouldn't happen. Don't ignore the builder's reputation. I think that that's really important too when you're thinking about new construction. I know that over the years there have been several, builders who I have listed for, and, I have they've contracted me to be their consultant when it comes to marketing their homes. And, I love the new construction, but I can think of one in particular that asked me to list some properties for them. And, I wouldn't put my name on that. So I said, I think it's just a conflict of interest because I had another development. So I just used that, but there's no way I would have represented that person. I'm going to see you in Shaw's, and I'm not ducking in the produce aisle because you got screwed by a builder. So there you go. Yeah. Failing to verify the timeline, always add a month. Just add a month. That's what, what? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But if you have in your mindset that it's going to be an additional month, then you're probably going to be prepared for it. It's going to probably be in the purchase and sales agreement anyways. Not locking in your interest rate. We're going to have a loan officer on soon. We haven't done that in a while. Not considering future development plans. That's always something to do is look, look at the lot lines and everything. Does the house next door, is it a farm that has 50 acres? Because all the farms have been selling. So, chances are one day it might be. Skipping a legal or agent review, but I don't think no one on my term is going to ever do that.
What is it?
To make sure you get an attorney. And a professional real estate agent. And that's the other thing too. When you come to me in new construction, I represent the seller. If you come directly to me, you think that you're getting a discount. That is one of the pitfalls, I think, of buyers, is this misconception. If I go to the listing agent, I'm going to get a break. Just so you know, the listing agent represents the seller. If anyone's going to get a break, guess who it's going to be? The seller.
Yeah.
I know you're looking at me because it's so common sense, but
I forgot we were on the show for a second.
Yeah.
We haven't even got through half of this stuff.
I'm going to let you.
I'm just saying maybe we could do another show on it, but just I think being emotionally driven, that's a common mistake.
Get the emotions out of it, friends.
Get the emotions out of it. I know that it's an exciting time, but also this is the biggest financial decision that you're going to make. So you have to be smart about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say understanding or underestimating expenses. So not accounting for all the expenses that strain your budget. So maybe you do want to do renovations, but then you get into it and you're like, oh gosh, I didn't realize how much. So you could prepare for that by getting estimates and getting multiple estimates and finding the avenue that works best for your budget, but also not cutting corners. So if you can't do things right away, don't do them right away.
100%.
So especially if you're going to be living there for a while, give it some time. Give it some time. I don't know. Should we start with the other one? Because we only have about 5 minutes left. So
5 minutes is a long time when you have dead air.
Oh, also with
Yes, it is.
Purchasing.
Thank you,
We'll
Jim.
try not to be dead today.
No, you're very lively. It's good. It's good.
Purchasing a condo or anything that has an HOA, a common mistake is not reading through all those documents. So sometimes sometimes what hides in those documents is that you can't have a vehicle that has, something on it. So if you are
A commercial vehicle.
an electrician or a plumber and you have a van that you bring home, you might not be able to bring it to your home.
An RV, a boat, you can't store them.
You can't put a fence up, things like that. You can't park on the street. You can only have one car in the driveway, like things like that. You can only have, white Christmas lights.
Yeah, you can't have pink flamingos.
You can have one bird in your house.
Yeah.
Like no dogs, or a dog, they do breed restrictions and, or weight restrictions or something like that. You can have one cat, things like that. You can't have your horse.
Can you rent?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Who maintains, is the street,
Plowed.
yeah, but I'm saying, is it private or public street? Like, so does the town do it, or are you going to have to pay for it? Is it a shared driveway? Who owns the driveway? What's going on with that? Who maintains it? Things like that
Again,
are all
go back-
hidden in all those documents.
Think about everything that you just rattled off, right? And you weren't looking at your paper. You were just rattling those off the top of your head. This is what I mean when I can't get it through to people. Like, you need to have a professional agent who this is their professional, this is their priority career. That's what we're going to call it from right now. Can we coin that?
Yeah.
My priority career is my real estate business, right? And obviously from me, when I'm talking, it's Boston Connect Real Estate as well. So I just think that, all these things that we know what to do is because we've been doing it for a very long time, or our agents who are newer in our office are surrounded by agents who have done it for a very long time. And they have pick up the phone and call. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I reached out to 2 of our agents recently. I was like, what do you think about my price? I mean, the seller thinks I'm low. I'm looking at this comp, which is great, but what about these other 3 comps, right?
Yeah.
So they helped me through that. I mean, ultimately we ended up at that same range, but the condo thing is huge. And I have one thing to say, but the condo fees, like when you're looking at condo fees, be really, really careful about that and really look at the budget and ask really good questions. And one of the things that I can think about is the condo that Mary and I just put under agreement, the condo fees are really high. And the reason why they jumped $300 is because they did all new roofs, all new windows, all new decks. Everything is done over there. But think about the person who's living there. Like if you had bought in there and then they suddenly told you, we now have a $300 betterment, or, for 30 years.
Yeah. That was something that I had to look at when I wasn't able to find a single family home. So I was like, all right, well, let me look at a condo, and all the condo fees were so high because there was an assessment or a betterment, because a lot of the developments are older and they need those things. So yes, you're reaping the benefits of having a new roof, having new sidings or windows or everything, but you're also paying for it.
Yeah, in new construction, you tend to see those, and we've had this conversation, you tend to see the HOA fees lower. And the reason why is because, generally speaking, the developer is able to, they're doing a lot of it with their contractors who give them a good price. They're doing it with their staff. So they're, paying them as employees. So if it's coming down to like landscaping and things like that, generally speaking, the developers have better resources to contract that stuff than when that development is pushed over to you and now you own the association. So that's why I love with Stonebridge, we have ours sort of what you can expect it will be when you move in.
Yeah.
So,
my suggestion also would be to, before signing everything at closing, making sure that you read through everything. It will take you a while, but ask to see, your closing disclosure and understand what each of those numbers mean. And I'm saying that, I'll be honest, during my purchase, somewhere, some way, somebody along the way missed, something with my taxes. So my taxes ended up being $1,000 more. So that was something that I had to deal with after the fact. So be sure to read through everything and make sure that everybody's on the ball.
And when you're in new construction, make sure anything you sign, you're really reading, because selections, we just had an issue this week. There was a typo on our selection sheet, but you signed it. So now the hardwood is carpet in that room. I mean, it's going to be fixed, but you're signing these things. So somebody could go back and say, listen, this is what you signed off on, right?
Yep.
So
thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
You're
and if
welcome.
if you want any of our open houses, feel free to go to bostonconnect.com. You'll find all of our open houses and some of our past shows. You can find them there. We're going to be revamping our website, so be sure to check that out soon. And have a great weekend, everybody.
I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighbor.